We are the Lenhart family. My husband and I have been married for almost 25 years. We have triplet daughters that are 20 and all in different colleges around the state. And then we have a 9-year-old, a 7-year-old, and a 5-year-old, all girls. So our experience with finding out Charlotte's health issues was a little bit different than a lot of people because she's adopted and they needed a foster care placement for her. Specifically, we're looking for a nurse. She had duodenal atresia, so she had blockage of her intestines when she was first born, so she had to have surgery right away to fix that, and they put in a G-tube. She has heterotaxy, so some of her organs are not exactly in the right place. Like her heart, instead of typically facing this way, hers is facing the other way. She does have a missing piece of her first chromosome, which they believe is probably what caused a lot of the defects. She was 6 months old when she had her first open heart surgery, and it was a complicated emotional journey, I think, for my husband and I, because we weren't yet the parent, but we were there acting as the parent. And it was just kind of hard to know, like, how do I fit into this, and what's appropriate, and how do I take care of this little person in this role? So in between the surgeries, the first and the second, she did amazing. It was hard for us to remember sometimes of how complicated things really were because she just took everything in stride and wanted to do everything. She was in and out in 6 days, which was pretty much unheard of. We were anticipating probably a month stay. And I woke up in the morning and just knew something wasn't right. And she was very pale. So we called our cardiologist, called an ambulance. The ambulance here in Bondurant took her downtown to Mercy. And we were met there with their awesome team, and the cardiologist was there waiting for us and started to do testing to try to figure out what was going on. The unfortunate part was the blizzard was hitting at that moment, and so we weren't able to get anywhere. So we were going to have to manage medically in Des Moines until we could get out. It was the most helpless feeling I think I've ever felt in my life. Knowing what I know as a medical person and knowing we needed to get her somewhere else and not being able to do anything. Watching her ultimately dying in front of my face. She just got very air hungry, just gasping and just terrified look on her face. And I looked at the monitor and I looked at her, and I just knew as a nurse, I knew she was gonna code. I heard her say, "Where's my mom?" And then that's the last thing I heard her say. And we were in a conference room with the chaplain, and as a nurse, I know what all those things mean, and I know they were working so hard on her and they were doing amazing. And so they rushed in there and put her on ECMO, and that's where we were for about 12 hours, just trying to survive on ECMO and figure out how we were going to get to Omaha. I heard the best news ever that Blank was coming over with their transport team, and they were going to work together with Mercy's perfusion team, and they were going to get her there. I finally had a little bit of hope that we might make it through this situation and might be okay. It took them 2 hours to move her from the bed to the transport gurney and then get her down to the ambulance, just with all the equipment and just double, triple checking everything. The perfusionist had to stand the entire 2 hours because there weren't enough seats in there. They got her to Omaha and were greeted by the Children's Nebraska staff who were all waiting for them, had coffee waiting for them to warm them up and thank them, and immediately took care of her, took her to the cath lab, and then took her to surgery. So they were able to fix those things and basically redid that first surgery over again. And when he called me to tell me the surgery was over, he said, "And we've got her off ECMO." And that was like the best news ever, because that meant her heart and lungs were strong enough, at least at that point, to get off that machine. She had so much equipment in her room that I parked my chair half in the bathroom so I could still see her and still see all the monitors. But she slowly started to wake up. She didn't talk for, I think it was probably at least a week. She didn't really talk. She might nod. I said, and a horse says, and I didn't say anything. And she goes, "Hey." I called for the nurse to come in because I was so excited. I'm like, she talked. So it was a lot of days of back and forth like that. But with all those little tiny events, I knew she was going to be okay. She is going to dance class, and she did a little cheerleading clinic this fall. She's keeping up with her sisters and running around and doing lots of normal kindergarten activities. Last weekend, she had her first recital on a stage and did amazing. We really wanted to share Charlotte's story because I feel like it's the definition of a true miracle. I want to thank all the people that were involved. And if one person had been missing or not available, or if the blizzard hadn't allowed them to get there, our situation would be completely different. For Charlotte's story, the American Heart Association has helped with resources, with education, raising money and awareness and research so she can live a longer life. Miracles are possible. Don't give up hope. Children are super resilient and make miraculous recoveries. And what we can do when we collaborate and work together as a team.